Dating in my 30s feels like navigating a sea of single moms. Anyone else? At least according to this Redditor, 33-year-old male here. Lately, as I've been dipping my toes back into dating, I've noticed a trend. Most of the women around my age who are single are also moms. Nothing against them at all, but after a past relationship with a single mom, I've realized that dynamic is just not for me. I dated a woman when I was 29. She was 34, the 6-year-old, and honestly, it was a disaster. I felt like I had all the responsibilities of a father figure, but zero say in anything. The kid's behavior was rough, and anytime I needed to step in, I was the bad guy. The biggest issue, she constantly compared me to her ex. Even though she claimed he was awful, it left me drained and honestly kind of traumatized. Now, trying to get back out there, I feel old, like I blinked and suddenly everyone my age has a kid. It's making dating feel way harder than I expected. Anyone else feeling this? How do you navigate this in your 30s when you know you don't want to be in a stepdad role? First comment says, move to a big city, lots of single 30-somethings with no kids, and that's going to be very true. Depending on where you are, it's going to be a nightmare. For example, I'm in a red state. This guy saying that it's pretty much all single moms is so true. A lot of people have their first child before they're 20. Getting to 24, you start to see women around here become baby hungry. So depending on what pocket you're in, yeah, your results are going to vary. But let's feel for the guy for a second though, where you do get into this quasi father figure role, but then you're expected to have all the responsibility of a father, but you get none of the credit or validation because it's not your kid. It's a weird position to put people in. And often these women, if they had the father figure leave beforehand, they're not going to be too excited to let you fulfill that role because you might leave as well. And this does a lot of damages to kids. I'm speaking from experience here. I had something quite similar. The father I had growing up in the house was not my father, and I was not allowed to call him dad. I called him by his first name, and it was more of a roommate situation. Any sort of discipline was handled by my mother. Any sort of guidance was handled by my mother. She was terrified to really let me see him as a father figure. And honestly, as things turned out, it was good because he wasn't a good guy. So it's hard because my mother was right in that instance. She skipped out on me looking up to someone who she knew was a bad guy. Should she have gotten with the bad guys? That's another story. What if all the guys out there suck? Who knows? I haven't done the legwork. But all this does make everyone feel old. Where did that romance go? That sort of Disney-esque meeting, going on a date, falling in love. It seems like people are skipping past that. They're having these families and then expecting that relationships to still be a thing. But there's no... Once you have a family and you have children, your priorities become them over your own self-fulfilling need for love, for other people to accept you because you now fulfill that role for children. I don't know how else to break it, but that's the truth. Is if you expect that your life is big enough and grand enough that you can hold on to children and then find this one true love, those two are exhausting and very different lifestyles. And the men who, fit into that, where they don't have these high expectations, but they're willing to conform to that role, they're often flabbergasted when they don't get any respect for what they do, which in the end might drive them away. It creates this self-fulfilling prophecy that men are always leavers, when in reality, a lot of them are, but all of them get treated like they are so anyways. Back when I was in college, they grounded up all the men on the first day and said, listen, 1 out of every 3 women gets sexually assaulted. And they really nailed it home, almost as if it was like, hey, 1 out of every 3 of you is assaulting women. And that's not the truth. It's usually one guy assaulting dozens of women. And that blows up the number. Okay, 1 out of every 3 women get assaulted by like 5 guys. Because they're monsters and they usually have privilege and they're usually hiding behind some sort of authoritative figure that is willing to protect them. It sucks, I understand, but when you treat that all guys have that privilege, it's kind of strange to be a good guy and get treated like a monster. And if you treat men like monsters, why would a good guy ever want to stay around you? If you won't give him the benefit of the doubt, if you won't give him the time of day, why would he genuinely want to stay around you? It's not his kid. It's not your trust that you're giving him. What is happening here other than he's serving you? And then he probably gets sex. That's the deal. Right? Where is the love? You ended up in this position probably by swiping on these apps. You have to accept the reality that you have a child because of it, with a man who doesn't live with you. I'm not saying that's the worst thing ever. I was a child who suffered under this. I'm just saying, can you think a little about what your decisions are and what you expect out of life? I feel for this guy. But like I said, I understand both sides. That to women, all of this is super new. This whole like stay with a guy for 50 years. Yeah, I know we've had monogamy forever, but think of it. Most guys died. It's perfectly natural for a woman to have that dreamy first partner, that 19-year-old with rosy cheeks. He's got pearly white teeth, his skin's unblemished. He gets sent off to war and gets blown up. And she lives with that love, but she's got to move on and she has kids. You know, how many women have lived this life? They fall in love with someone. That certain someone gets sent off to war or fights a bear in the forest or dies of an infection because there was no doctors around. And the woman after that was just widowed and went on to have a family, not with a guy that truly loved her, but with someone that was willing to protect her. Think of it, you have someone like an Emma. She dates a Charlie. They fall in love at 19. He goes off to war, gets blown up. She gets a nice little picture of him and a folded up little flag. She moves on with her life. She gets with a guy named Roy, a car salesman. He's not the love of her life, but he comes home at 6 p.m. and he treats the kids nice. And that's something that Charlie will never do. So she spends 20 years, the kids are grown, and then Roy dies of a heart attack or something. And then she's 2 times widowed, kids are all grown up. Now it's time for gardening, cats, whatever. This was the life of a lot of women, not by choice. Their men get taken away from them. Early, young, often. When they remarry, a second time they get taken away from them. And it's hard to find true love out there, especially if you feel like you've lost it already. Especially if you've had the kid. And then you had the father with the kid, but then it didn't work out. And now you're kind of stuck in this half love, half acceptance role where you dream of something, but you know you can't attain it. And instead of changing your expectations, you just kind of wither away within and accept whatever's safe. My point is, women are also adjusting to having so many single men still around all the time. And finding love is going to be like finding an oasis in the desert. Extremely difficult to find and probably a mirage. Why do wives and girlfriends seem to hate when men have hobbies? It can be Sunday afternoon, all my work is done, all the chores are done. Ask the wife, want to do something? She shrugs. Want to watch something? Sure. Then she just scrolls on her phone. Try to make conversation, it goes nowhere. I pull out the laptop, start working on personal projects, and suddenly get a babe. What are you doing, babe? And then I answer, I get an exasperated sigh, a snotty attitude. This also isn't just my wife. I've asked a dozen guys I know with different hobbies, and they get the same response from women. Does this happen to you? Why do you think women hate it when men have hobbies? Insecure women hate when men have hobbies because that's often when men are displaying their skills, are the most competent, and look the most attractive. Women hate men having hobbies because they're led to believe by TV shows and other people's gossip that all men talk about are objectifying women and banging other women. That's not even close to the truth. Most guys, you will have a 2-hour conversation about a motor. It is the least sexiest thing possible. But this is what they'll believe. Insecure women, not all women. You go through the comments in this one, everyone's like, I would not date this girl. You gotta find someone else. Can't help you. Sounds like your wife just sucks. And that is true. This guy's wife does suck. Society doesn't raise women to have hobbies. So naturally, if a woman doesn't break out of society's pre-built molds for her, one of her hobby becomes controlling men. And I wouldn't even say controlling men, controlling everyone around her via social media. That's why they get on those apps and they just doom scroll and doom investigate and find out every single post someone has, whoever they're obsessed with, has ever posted in their life, is because they don't actually have a life. That is what they do. They look up at other people's lives. People who have a life do not care. If your wife or your girlfriend is acting like with hobbies, it's because they don't have a life. They may not know how. Again, this is both sides of the coin, because you can flip this. Insecure dudes absolutely do this. Insecure dudes won't let their girls go anywhere. Girls need girl time. Just like bros need bro time, girls need girl time. And insecure guys will flip shit if they don't know what their girl's doing or what their girl's talking about or who she's hanging out with, or if one of their boyfriends is there, blah, 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 blah. Okay, this is a massive insecurity thing, is caring about your other partners having hobbies. It just seems lopsided because men are more highly encouraged to have at least one hobby, to the point where the men don't even really care about what hobby they have. They just try and emulate whatever successful people hobbies they think they should be doing, or have the hobbies of the people that, you know, they look up to or they're superior, so that they can just copy them as well. Men don't have hobbies just for the love of it. In general, you know, my point is, this is a massive insecurity issue where you feel like, if you're having fun without me, then what is the purpose of me? I should be the only source of happiness in your life. In fact, I would say insecure men have done way more of this damage than women. The biggest example is going to be all of the religions based off of Abraham. Judaism, Christianity, Islam, all of them harshly criticize their women, restrict them, and prevent them from being true creatives or getting too involved in religious authority. All of them. And just as these toxic religions view women, insecure women view men. You're there to serve them. Essentially what I'm saying here is, it doesn't matter what relationship you're in. If your partner is asking you to cover up, sit down, and shut up, you just might be in a toxic relationship.